Alright, time to start the video. Again, my roommate's in my room and I don't want to bother him, so I'm doing it out here. So let's talk on illegal immigration, shall we? So first off, what is illegal immigration? Well, for starters, the obvious should be... Oh, by the way, I should put that. Illegal immigration is immigration not permitted by the ruling state. Note, this does not apply to leaving the country, because fundamentally that would be emigration, not immigration. A good way to distinguish the two is emigration is to leave, and immigration is to enter. For example, if I was, say, someone in El Salvador, just to give an example, I would emigrate from El Salvador and immigrate to my new home. And this is very important because technically you cannot, under any circumstances, according to the UN, restrain this. You can't stop people from leaving. However, under the UN's laws, you can stop people from entering. That is well within your rights as a country. And so you are not required to give shelter to every single person, or even asylum. You aren't. Someone overstays their visa, you're also not required to say, hey, leave, you're just allowed to kick them out. Because fundamentally, countries are still allowed to have sovereignty over their borders. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't matter, that's just how it is. Now, all that being said, and I apologize for the brief pause, but what is my stance on illegal immigration? 1, it is bad. Plain and simple. A lot of people try to defend it by saying, oh, it's a civil offense to overstay a visa across the border. No, that's still a crime. It is still a crime. You have violated the law. Even if parking without permission is a civil misdemeanor, it's still a crime to do. You wouldn't say saying hateful words or committing hate speech would not be a crime if it was a civil offense, would you? No, it's still a crime, and they can punish you appropriately for it. It's just not that severe and would be handled in civil courts rather than criminal ones. 2, it is a logistical burden. This should be a basic understanding of reality. Let's say, for example, that you have a country of 1,000 people, okay? And you have 8,000 square miles of land, right? Okay. Relatively small territory, but it's important. Why? Well, see, this 8,000 square miles of territory, sorry, let me hold this better. This territory is, of course, divided among the 1,000. Maybe not evenly, but still. That is 8 square miles for every one person. Now, let's say you have an extra 1,000 people joining, right? So plus 1,000. Okay, now it's 4 to 1. Keep expanding it. Add another 2,000. And now it's 2 to 1. And finally, add 4,000 to that. And you hit a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, the Dutch, for example, are able to handle this by, well, expanding their land. So forgive the poor drawing of the Netherlands, but it'll have to do to get the point across. So the Netherlands has expanded. it has acquired some territories from the sea under the Zuiderzee works. I mispronounced that and misspelled it, but regardless. Zunderzee works, or whatever you want to call it. And they've gotten land out of it, thus expanding the arable land and territory they have access to. The US hasn't done this. Neither has most of Europe or the world. And so this continues to happen. Over time, population condenses more and more. And if it happens too quickly, you quickly find yourself overpopulated. Meaning, land costs go up, general costs, so just costs all around, go up, and importantly, wages can do two things. One, they can stagnate, or they can go down. And if they go down, that is bad. See, an economy relies on wages. Wages are price signals, telling how valuable labor of an individual is. For example, someone being paid $15 an hour is considered for their hourly wage, basically 1 hour of their labor, to be worth $15. If that's how much they get paid, that's how much they are valued by their corporation, which is, paying them. But if suddenly there's competition among many people, while the amount of jobs stays roughly similar, suddenly wages start to stagnate or they start to decrease. And if wages decrease while everything else is getting more expensive, well then guess what? Over time, people are going to struggle. This isn't good. Because fundamentally, this goes down and continues until it hits a burst, until the situation can no longer sustain itself and the economy breaks. Because fundamentally, the economy cannot handle this. And so, eventually, it will break itself. And that is a problem. Now, there are those who argue instead, well, immigrants take the jobs we don't want. Now, they make this argument, or they make a similar argument of they keep the prices down, specifically food. Now, I shouldn't have to explain why this is a bad argument, but tell you what, I'll do it anyways. See, the problem with this argument is, as I alluded to here, that wasn't just a tongue-in-cheek remark. That is straight up the logic of a slaver. See, the entire argument of a slaver and why they keep their slaves is, well, no one's going to want to pick the cotton, or it'll keep cotton prices down, because, it's an important resource, and logically, it should have its prices kept down. Funnily enough, this wasn't true. As has been proven time and time again, cheap labor is not what keeps prices down. It increases in efficiency, in production. If wages stay the same, let's see if I can write it properly. Let's say wages stay the same, but production rises, well then, prices go down. But if wages go up and production goes up, still, you can still see prices go down. Why? Competition. With more production, there's more goods. That means more supply, filling the same or similar demands. And so prices go down in response. Wages just determine the solvency of that company. Because, let's face it, human capital is very valuable and quite costly. And so, you might help the bottom line of the company by suppressing wages, but you're not lowering prices. In fact, I would argue you're doing the exact opposite because, well, you're giving them basically slaves. in terms of function. People who can't really interact with much because, remember, these people aren't supposed to be here, so they don't have the proper documentation without breaking the law. Because, again, they do not have permission to be here and stay here. And so, not only can they be threatened to basically keep the wages down or even below minimum wage, which does happen frequently with illegal immigrants. So yeah, fun times on that front. But also, they can be threatened easily and told, hey, I will deport you or tell ICE to deport you if you don't listen to me, if you don't obey me. And so, the wages remain stagnant or go down, and in response, the prices don't similarly go down. In fact, as we've seen constantly, even under Biden, when all these people were coming in, literally doubled in 1 year after Trump left. All of it. We didn't see food prices go down, did we? We didn't even see them stay stagnant. They went up and up and up. That is basic observation. And why is that? Well, one, inflation is that. And that was a big one. But also, just because they keep lower wages does not suddenly mean prices are going to go down. Especially because, remember, immigrants must eat too. Yeah, I'm sorry. The dude from Venezuela who illegally crossed the border as an illegal immigrant does not suddenly have an immunity to needing bread. He needs food. And so naturally, that increases the demand for food. But their wages don't go up. Indeed, people's wages stagnate because of this. Because remember, more laborers for the same amount of jobs means less value per person in the jobs. Basic supply and demand. Now, the job numbers can increase, but if they increase a disproportionate amount, because remember, people don't have as much in terms of wages, so the economy can't scale as well, because they don't make as much money, so they can't consume as much, or they can't invest in land, save, actually build their wealth. Well, in such a case, they don't spend, so you can't make as many jobs, because what demand are you going to be feeding? The immigrants? They don't make much. What about the average person? Their wages have stagnated. They can only afford the same thing, if not less, because of inflation. Alright, you're going to export it to another country? Well, that comes with big costs itself. Who are you going to sell to? Who are you going to create the jobs for, and how are you going to make those jobs profitable? How? Genuinely, how? You can't. Fundamentally, this is not a good thing. Now, immigration can be fine. It helped our country in the past, and it was useful, yes. But the big thing was, not only was it legal and consensual, people crossing the border with permission from the United States government, indeed, they even had incentives to cross the border, literally giving away land, but also, the economy was growing without as much regulation. And this actually helped when it came to the immigrant problem. Now, the tariffs were a problem, and they did not help a lot. But what they did do was encourage companies to sell internally. Well, if you're selling internally, you gotta keep prices down, or you gotta raise wages. A lot of companies did the former. And so prices were low. People could buy things. The economy grew. If everyone from Mexico just decided, oh hey, Mexico is in another civil war, by the way, Mexico's had quite a few of those, so it's not unreasonable to make it as an example. Let's say they said, okay, Mexico's in another civil war, time to cross the border and make our own lives. Okay. Didn't get permission, for one. For two, now there's a massive population influx that the United States government did not account for. 3, the government they left now has less workers, so that's not going to help them. And 4, wages are going to be stagnant, and prices are going to stay the same or grow because of increased demand. All of those combined means this is not a good thing. Immigration needs to be regulated by the state so long as we operate in the states we do. Also, I'm just going to point this out for all the liberals Immigration hurts welfare. Now, not all immigration, so I'm going to put an asterisk, but immigration of certain peoples does. Those who do not want to contribute, dependents. They put a strain on the welfare state. Why? Well, it should be fairly obvious. If you don't contribute as much but take from it, you're naturally going to, obviously, be a drain on the welfare state. And that's exactly what we see, especially in immigrants from certain communities. For example, the Somalis. Now, it's not all Somalis, but it is many of them, and it's enough to be of note. Indeed, you can actually look up immigrant groups based on ethnicity and note that some are more reliable for actually contributing to the economy than others, and that's with legal immigration. Some people don't contribute as much to the economy, and indeed some even take from the economy. And that's not good. And so we need to be selective. And immigration that is illegal is by its definition not selective. We don't choose which Jose, which Han, which Joe, and which Houthi, or whatever you want to call them, comes over. We don't control that, because it's illegal immigration. It is ignoring our laws. It doesn't care about our laws. Asylum claim or not, fundamentally, they don't care. And so the fact that people are fighting for this is just utterly, utterly asinine. I get it, you want to help people. Oh, how dare a child be in a camp? How dare our economy break itself over the backs of others because we can't support ourselves, because of our policies towards others. If you want to help these people, and don't get me wrong, I am fully supportive of that. You want to help them? Help them in their home country. Why? Because it expands this. We are working not just with our own territory, but theirs as well. It allows for growth, and allows for their development alongside those who share their culture and beliefs. Wouldn't you rather have a Guatemalan stay in their country but be able to prosper than move here, find themselves uncomfortable with our people, have our own people suffer as a response, and then, as a result, Guatemala is now deprived of a skilled worker? Poaching other people's skilled workers is not the best for those countries, and flooding our own country is not the best for us. So, you want to help people? Fix their dang countries first. Fix theirs. Oh, but the government's corrupt. Freaking remove that government. It is not that complicated. Now, governing is, if it wasn't, we wouldn't be dealing with a bunch of idiots. But it is. And so we must factor that in. But in the end, the same conclusion is reached. The most efficient solution helps the most people pursue the most moral and efficient lives, the most productive lives. And tolerating illegal immigration does not promote that. It does not further that, and it is a violation of our laws. So it should not be allowed, should not be done, and should be ended. Not just ended, but everyone who used it should be kicked out. Plain and simple. Enforce the dang laws. I'll leave it at that. Argue with me in the comments if you so desire. I won't object. Indeed, a person would probably be quite entertained by being able to join it. So, enjoy. Have a good one. Goodbye.